This is the story of Australia's latest low-cost airline, Bonza, an airline that flew for just 15 months. In this video, we'll fly one of Bonza's more successful routes. Obviously not successful enough. We'll head south, a bit like Bonza, as we head from the airline's sunny headquarters to the regional city of Albury. So, we'll need to start this trip by turning back the clock to a time when there was optimism about this new budget airline, shaking up the Australian aviation industry with new point-to-point routes between regional cities.
Australia's new budget airline Bonza will take off later this year.
You know, we think if you fly for about an hour, well, it shouldn't be costing you more than about $50.
However, the airline wasn't able to start revenue flights until a year later. I flew with them in May 2023. I flew into Maroochydore this morning on a Qantas flight from Melbourne. We'll get into what went wrong with Bonza once on board one of their aircraft. The terminal at Sunshine Coast Airport is being upgraded and expanded. However, the arrivals hall is too small to cope with the volume of people at the time of this flight. Hi, I'm at Sunshine Coast Airport in Maroochydore in southeast Queensland, where it's a sunny 22 degrees. But we're going to be heading south to slightly cooler climates, Albury, on the New South Wales-Victorian border. And we're flying with Australia's new low-cost airline, Bonza, on a 737 MAX. So let's go check in. Here's the inbound aircraft that will operate our flight. It's flown down the Queensland coast from Townsville. Sunshine Coast Airport is Australia's 10th busiest airport, with almost 2 million passengers in the year to April 2024. Jetstar, Qantas and Virgin are the main operators here. As Bonza's HQ, there are dedicated bag drop desks. You need to check in on the app. Bag drop is relatively quick. The staff give me a paper boarding pass. There's a long queue for security screening as there are two Jetstar A321s departing around the same time. The terminal expansion will help alleviate these issues. After security, there's a range of cafes and shops, but it's a little cramped pending the upgrade. Bonza flights use the IATA code AB. We're flight AB565. The Bonza crew start boarding passengers with children 35 minutes before our scheduled departure. At the time of this flight, Bonza has a fleet of 4 737 MAX 8s. They all have Aussie names. This one is called Bazza. This aircraft was originally going to fly for LOT Polish Airlines, but LOT didn't take up the aircraft. It arrived in Australia in October 2022. The 737 MAX is perhaps best known for two deadly crashes in 2018-19 and the subsequent grounding of the type until 2020. Thankfully, the issues with the aircraft's flight stabilising system, MCAS, have been rectified and it's safe to fly. Intriguingly, Bonza only board via the front stairs. I'm not sure why, perhaps it saves some money, but it does mean boarding takes a while. Whereas most low-cost airlines board via both the front and rear doors so they can turn around aircraft more quickly and fly more segments per day. As well as a safety instruction card, the seat back features a USB charging port, instructions for ordering food and drink, there's a pocket for personal stuff, there's a universal power socket between the seats, and it appears there's some rubbish from the previous flight. I'm in row 3, which has an extra 10 centimetres of legroom compared to rows further back. As you'd expect, seat selection on a low-cost airline costs extra. I'll cover that later. Seating is in an all-economy standard 3x3 layout. There are 186 seats. Food needs to be ordered through the Bonza app, which I'll show you later.
It's my pleasure to introduce the cabin crew legends flying into Albury this afternoon. Your pilots today are Captain Phil Ruffley and Captain Mark Bushnell. Your legends in the cabin are we have Michelle at the front, Jazz in the middle and Justin towards the rear of the aircraft.
We push back on schedule. There was a lot of scepticism about Bonza's ability to fill a 737 on some of its unusual routes, including this one. However, this flight is near full, with some passengers asked to take luggage from the overhead lockers and place them under the seats given the lack of space.
The cabin will be pressurised during the flight.
The engines on the MAX take quite a bit longer to start than those on a standard 737-800.
After flow of oxygen, pull the mask firmly down towards you. Remove any mouth covering and place the oxygen mask over your nose and mouth like this. And breathe normally, adjusting the mask if necessary. Fit your own mask first before assisting children or
Today's route will take us over Brisbane into New South Wales, passing Mudgee and Temora before descending into the border twin city of Albury-Wodonga. The new terminal is under construction. After waiting for this Jetstar flight to pass, we backtrack on the runway, which means taxiing to the end and turning around ready for takeoff. We're treated to beautiful views of Marcoola Beach.
Now that we're on our way, I'd like to tell you more about the flight. Once the seatbelt sign is turned off, you're welcome to use your large electronic devices and the charging port. All transmitting devices, including smartwatches, are to remain in flight mode. We do recommend while seated you keep your seatbelt securely fastened. You can purchase food and drink on our all-over menu by the Fly Bonza app, and our team of legends will deliver it to your seat. The crew will be in the cabin if you need any help. We accept a physical or credit card.
The plane features a Boeing Sky interior set to Bonza colours. You order food and drink via the app, however payment is only accepted using a physical card. There's also entertainment on the app which connects to the plane's Wi-Fi, however there's no internet. The entertainment includes some games and podcasts. We fly over Moreton Island, the third largest sand island in the world. As we climb, let's look at Bonza's rise and fall. Bonza's original business plan was to roll out 3 Boeing 737 MAX 8s around June 2022, increasing that number to 8 MAX 8s by June 2023. But the airline suffered delays in securing aircraft, higher than expected costs for those aircraft, delays in getting an Air Operator's Certificate from the Civil Aviation and Safety Authority, CASA, and challenges in recruiting and training enough staff. Bonza began life as Low Fare Air in 2021, being renamed shortly after. It receives its first aircraft in July 2022, aiming to take flight a couple of months later. But the launch date keeps getting pushed back. And back. There are delays in pilot training as well as getting the necessary certification from CASA. In January 2023, Bonza is finally given clearance to fly, but the ticketing system isn't ready. The inaugural flight takes off on 31 January 2023, although this is really more of a PR opportunity, with most seats given to non-paying passengers such as the media, public figures and staff. Regular flights begin on 14 February. Flights from the new Melbourne base begin in March. All routes are rolled out by May 2023, with 27 routes serving 17 destinations. 5 routes are axed in August, with tickets for the new Gold Coast base going on sale around this time. At this point, Bonza has 33 routes served from 3 bases, but not enough aircraft. A lightning strike grounds one aircraft for 5 days, resulting in flight cancellations, and there are delays in getting a 5th aircraft certified. There are also delays in the delivery of a 6th leased aircraft, leading to many Gold Coast flights being cancelled in December. Although Bonza has 2 more aircraft flying by late December, the short time frame between these flights going on sale and the services starting means flights aren't well patronised. By this point, Bonza's finances are looking problematic, with costs to lease aircraft far greater than anticipated. In February, the wet leases on 2 aircraft expire, with one returning to Canada and the other grounded in a stalemate situation between Bonza's holding company and Canada's Flair Airlines. In April, Bonza is issued notices of default for its other aircraft. It all comes to a head on 30 April, when the aircraft leases are terminated and Bonza is grounded, with voluntary administrators appointed. By this point, Bonza has racked up losses of $133 million.
Good evening. Budget airline Bonza is tonight in voluntary administration, grounding all flights and disrupting the travel plans of thousands of customers.
Tearful passengers today lashed out at the carrier, which gave no notice before its planes were towed from the tarmac.
The chances of Bonza being resurrected from here after going into voluntary administration are virtually nil. I think sadly this is the end of Bonza.
He was right. The aircraft are repossessed in May and June. Administrators Chadwick Hall failed to find a buyer for the stricken airline. On 2 July, creditors vote to liquidate the company. Let's get back to our flight review. You'll find a standard tray table that moves forward and back. I decide to buy some food. Unlike other Australian airlines, there's no trolley service. You order through the app, using your seat number, and the crew deliver it straight to your seat. This keeps the aisle free. The prices are reasonable, and a lot of people seem to place orders, with the crew running out of lemonade, sparkling wine, croissants and crackers. I choose the bubbly combo. Most items are locally sourced, with the sourdough bites being made in Maroochydore. They give you a reusable cup, so it's more environmentally friendly than Qantas or Virgin. All up, this cost 17 Australian dollars. Reasonable in my view. It's a good selection of snacks and drinks. The pizza flavoured fava beans are made in Landsborough on the Sunshine Coast and are Moorish. You can even buy Bonza budgie smugglers. The crew are very friendly. The administrator's report makes for sombre reading. Bonza's fares were too low to recover costs, being significantly less than the industry standard. The administrators also say the parent company provided insufficient funding to keep Bonza afloat. and that Bonza may have traded while insolvent. Overall, the administrators identified 5 key reasons Bonza failed. In addition, for most of its life, Bonza required customers to purchase tickets through an app, rather than allowing sales through a website. The administrators say this limited ticket sales. The Macquarie and Kudgegong rivers flow into Lake Burrendong, a man-made reservoir. Overall, I'd say this is a good flight. We're treated to a glorious sunset. You can see who this plane was originally intended for here, LOT Polish Airlines. We start our descent over Timora in the Riverina region. I almost forgot to show you the other seat features. There's an adjustable headrest. Sorry, not going to do a loo review as I don't want to make these people move just for that. The armrests are very small, so there's no room to share one with your neighbour. The 737 MAX also has individual air vents and reading lights. The aircraft brakes strongly as Albury has a relatively short runway. So, how much did this flight cost? The base fare was $79 Australian dollars. I paid $36 in total for the extra legroom seat and a checked bag. So that comes to a grand total of $113, including a small discount available at the time. Good value, I think.
A very Bonza welcome to Albury, where the local time is just past 6 p.m.
The primary source for information in this video about Bonza's rise and fall, particularly the company's finances and the timeline of events, was the Voluntary Administrator's Report to Creditors, which you'll find linked in the description below. Albury is served by QantasLink and Rex. We can see a Rex Saab aircraft at the terminal. As you can see, it's a full flight. As on the Sunshine Coast, all passengers deboard from the front door. Here's another look at the Recaro slimline seat. It was fine for a flight of about 2 hours. You can put the tiny armrests up. It's a chilly 11 degrees Celsius here. A last look at Baza. According to planespotters.net, this aircraft was most recently in storage in France, but has new owners and registration. This Rex Saab 340 is bound for Sydney. Rex has also found itself in financial difficulty and is currently in voluntary administration with debts of $500 million. However, the federal government is underwriting regional flights during this period. Albury is a modern regional airport with the terminal upgraded in 2018. There's a cafe here with a decent selection if you get peckish while waiting. It takes a long time for the luggage to be unloaded. In the months following this flight, Bonza took a tumble, just like this luggage. From deboarding to the first bag arriving takes 25 minutes. Far too long for a small airport like this. But all up, this was an enjoyable and affordable flight with friendly service and good food at affordable prices. It's sad that Bonza has become just another blip in the history of failed Australian airlines. But there's another Aussie low-cost airline on the horizon, Koala Airlines. Let's hope this one doesn't fall from the tree. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my future videos. Hope to see you then.